Before we get to that, though, I just am excited to stand up in front of you guys. I stand up in front of several crowds of people and share about Young Life. At churches or community organizations, there's usually some common thread that unites those groups. When we stand up in front of this crowd, I wonder what unites all of us. I mean, if you look around this room, do we all go to the same community even? No, there's plenty of people that are even from well out of town. Do we all go to the same kind of job? We're in the same kind of line of work? No, we're not. Do we attend the same church, or do we even believe the same about a God in this room? We probably don't. So what does unite us? What brings us here that unites us? And I would hope that it's that we have a care for students, and we get to hear about those stories tonight. So when I stand up in front of our students at club, I wonder what unites them. There are often more than 4 or 5 schools represented. There are all kinds of cliques, all kinds of different races, all kinds of different religions represented in our club. There's so many different types of students, and what's so cool about club is that they come together, interact, play crazy games. Several times this year already we've thrown whipped cream at each other just for fun. And students let their guard down for one night a week and are not separated by their social statuses. But apart from club, they all feel the need to fit in. They all feel the need to measure up and earn their place somehow. And if we're really honest, maybe some of us feel that too. I know I do. That we feel like we need to measure up somehow, that we need to fit in. We all want our own identity, to belong, for someone to care. Everyone wants this unconditionally, to be loved. And at Young Life, we get to introduce students to a love that does not fail. This love doesn't care where you have been, it cares about you now. This love doesn't ask you to measure up, it measures up for you. This love doesn't turn away from you, it accepts you as you are right now, all of you, today. One of the things we hear over and over from students is that Young Life is one of the only places that they feel loved and accepted unconditionally for exactly who they are. In a world where there's so much division lately, that love doesn't seem possible. If we're honest about this world, we know deep inside us that there's something that is not right. And we're all trying to fix it ourselves, find a way to measure up, find a way to fit in ourselves. But what unifies us all is that we are all offered a place at the table. A place to be loved and accepted without any conditions. And at Young Life, we believe that Jesus is that love. He invites us to be at this table as we are, so we can show His love for you. Regardless of how any student or even yourself responds to that message, we still care about them and we love them where they're at. We want to be there for them as they go through this mess of a life. To be told it's okay to mess up and learn from our mistakes, and to show them that they have a place to belong no matter what they're going through. Thanks for listening tonight, learning, hopefully catching the vision of how we walk with students. And in this divided time, there are things that unite us as a community, and one of those is being with our students.
I've seen the trajectory of lives changed from here to here, not because people loved on them and showed them a God that loves them. There is, this year, a local anonymous donor who believes very strongly in the mission of Young Life and wants to see it continue in this community, and has graciously donated $25,000 in matching funds. So for whatever is pledged, whatever is raised tonight, whether that is a one-time gift or a monthly gift, and I'll just say monthly gifts, all gifts are awesome, monthly gifts are super awesome because we look at our budget every month. And so it's just nice to know that you have a steady stream coming in as it's going out. So yeah, I hope for the rest of the night you won't hear any more from me, which is great for you guys. But I just hope you enjoy, take it in, and if you catch the vision, if you see it, I hope you get behind it. And with that, we are going to introduce Real Life. Real Life is a tradition at Young Life that kids experience at camp. It is, a lot of us come to know God's love, not only by His Word, but also the stories that we tell of how our lives have been changed by God. So with that, we will introduce our Real Life folks. These are their real lives. You know, this isn't a sketch or they're not acting. We're sharing their real lives.
I grew up in a house with 4 other sisters, so there's 5 of us girls, and I have 2 parents. When I was really young, I went to church with my mom and my sisters, and that was like most of my little kid life, and I messed around with my sisters, and we had fun, and I didn't think anything of it. But there was a lot of things going on that I had no idea existed. When I was a 6th grader, I found out that both of my parents were pretty severe alcoholics, and I didn't know my whole life. That same year, both of my parents lost their jobs. We lost our house that I had grown up in, and my parents were getting a divorce. So kind of my whole life felt like it was crumbling, and I was a 6th grader. And so ever since that year of my life, my family, I ended up living with my mom most of the time. We moved around every year, either because my mom couldn't keep the job, or we didn't have enough money to pay for anything. And so when I was in middle school, when I was young, I was very aggressive and I was very angry, but I didn't let anyone know why. I nonetheless probably bullied a lot of people that I was going to school with. I just messed around with people and just never wanted anyone to know that I was actually sad or that I was hurting, so I wanted to make other people feel bad about themselves. When I was in 6th grade also, I had my first alcoholic drink, which is insane. But when I was in middle school, I would go to parties with my older sisters. I would just do a lot of things that I probably shouldn't have been doing. And around that time, I witnessed a lot of hurt and pain in my family. Every single one of my sisters had severe depression, and so 8th and 9th grade and the beginning of my high school years, I spent a lot of time making sure that my sisters weren't hurting themselves or that they weren't fighting with my mom or my dad. And a lot of times though, my mom, they didn't care. So my mom wasn't around, and so really I didn't know who I was, and I didn't know where I belonged, and I never felt like anyone was ever gonna choose me.
My name's Alex, and I grew up right here in Esko. We moved to Esko from Duluth when I was, about 4 or 5, and we had land. Both of my parents were around all the time. We daycared a couple kids, and we had a lot of fun. My mom stayed at home with us, and so we were outside exploring and going to the beach and reading books, and it was exceptional. We were a big part of a church in Duluth, and pretty much anytime the doors were open, we were there. Sunday mornings, Sunday nights, Wednesday nights, some Saturdays. My mom ran VBS, so we were there in the summer on weekdays. we were there a lot, and I was a really good Sunday school kid. I mean, I knew all the answers and all the Bible stories, and I don't remember this, but I've been told that I want to be a cowboy missionary. That was kind of my goal as a kid. And so, yeah, it was a pretty awesome childhood. And as I got into middle school, growing up here, going to church in Duluth, things kind of started to change a little bit. My friends I had at church were not my friends I had at school. And I felt the need to fit in where I was going to school, and that was different than where I was at church. So all of a sudden, I'm cussing with all the other kids on the 7th grade football bus, and I'm telling all the crude jokes, and I'm making fun of the kids that are less than me because I'm trying to fit in with whatever is happening in middle school at Esko. And that went on into high school as I got into football. I was turned into be a pretty good football player. Well, with that, you got to hang out with the upperclassmen, and so then there was drinking, and there was chewing, and there was sitting in the parking lot of Esko doing absolutely nothing, because that's what you did in high school, and nothing good came out of that. And so, but then on Sundays and Wednesdays, I'd be the church kid that I was growing up. I still knew all the answers, and I was still there all the time. And so there started to be just this inner turmoil of who I actually was. Was I this football player that was a part of this community in Esko that were doing things that I knew weren't right, or was I this kid on Sunday? There was just this inner struggle that I wasn't sure who I was or who I was becoming, and it was really becoming something that I didn't like anymore.
How do you think it feels to hear you screaming out my name? Well, while I'm trying to open up your heart.
Hi, I'm Nicole. I was raised in Cloquet with 2 parents and 2 younger siblings. Technically 3 when my brother's best friend would come over and would be starving and searching through the fridge. My parents have currently adopted him into the family and have been raising him for 4 years. I grew up going to church with my grandma. She was Catholic. My father at the time did not believe and could not understand why I was going to Young Life. And my mother would stay back and watch my younger siblings when we went to church. Family was always a huge part of my life. Always going over to my grandparents, my aunt and uncles, always having get-togethers. I remember at 15 years old, standing next to my mother saying I wanted to kill myself, and that I thought I needed help. The summer before, we were camping, and I held a knife to my wrist, ready to cut and not return. I wondered who would even care and how long it would take people to find me. My self-esteem was always low, with boys saying, "Yuck, she's fat, she's gross." My aunt comparing myself to my cousin who was a month apart, constantly lingering in my head. And then me, of course, comparing myself to my friends. If only I could lose 20 pounds, if only I could be thin, if only I could be pretty, if only God loved me. I don't remember the first time it happened, but as I made myself puke, it felt good and it felt right. If I wasn't purging, I wasn't eating to the point where I would almost pass out. When I turned 21, I went out with a few friends, and I woke up next to my friend. Well, who I thought was a friend. I didn't remember the night before, and it was weird because I was drinking. Throughout college, I kept numbing.
Thank our friends so far. Yeah, it's just awesome to hear just a small part of what some students have gone through, and we'll hear the second part of their stories in just a little bit. Well, wait though, we want to tell you a little bit about leaders in general, just what leaders are like. Young life leaders are at, interact with them in a place to be able to hear more about where students are. Students can tell when someone cares about them authentically. We appreciate all the hard work each of you do for students, professionally at home, and everything in between. Young life leaders all have jobs or go to school and everything in between that as well. Leaders are the driving force behind young life. They're caring adults that are investing time in students' lives. The more adults walking into a student's life, the better the community gets. We hope that's what we're all excitedly looking forward to. So, again, on the sheet and on front of your table, you don't have to grab it, but there's lots of information about how Young Life works, and there's 4 different C's that are represented on one of those sheets. So I'm going to just share a little bit about those C's. The first one is called contact work. That's what Young Life leaders do, is they go to where students are at, and they go to their games, go to their plays, that kind of stuff, earning the right to be heard. And then there's this crazy activity we do once a week called Club. It's the second C. It's a party with a purpose, we call it that. Interacting with peers in a judgment-free zone. And then there's a third C, camp. We have a summer camp we go to in Detroit Lakes, which is near Fargo. And it's awesome to be able to go there. You can ask some of these students that have been there how sweet it was to be in a place that was a week long without distractions. We actually take their phones so that they can grow together in a distraction-free zone. So, and then there's a fourth thing we do called campaigners or cabin time. And that's where we do small group kind of life groups together, a little bit more about the Bible to be able to learn a little bit more that way. So I'd love to invite our current leaders out onto the stage. You saw some of them moving some stuff, so give them a big round of applause if they come out. These are our current leaders for the year. And we wanted to just share with you a little bit about what we do. We get to break down the walls with students and act silly and embarrass ourselves a little bit. We like to show we're not perfect, and we thought a good way to do that would be in a skit called Leaders in White Shirts. But it makes a big difference to be in the lives of students. So let's continue to hear the rest of our Young Life alumni stories with the second part of Real Life. So these guys can come back.
How do you think it feels to hear you screaming out my name? Well, while I'm trying to open up your heart.
I remember being asked to attend my first Young Life my sophomore year of high school. I was hesitant at first and didn't want to go, but after going, I went every Monday night. Beforehand, went to a friend's house to have dinner that we called supper club. I attended all 3 years of camp. There's something about campus I can't really explain. I don't know if it's all the activities, the good food, or the constant love that you get. Not from the leaders, but the presence of Jesus too. My first year at camp, I gave myself to Jesus. After that, a few years later, I became a Young Life leader. At this time, I was looking into schools for mental health counseling. I remember sitting around the table with all the leaders and someone asked, "Why work with eating disorders? Have you ever had one?" I instantly broke down and confessed everything. I was encouraged to take the rest of the semester off and find myself and do some work. Today, as I sit in front of you, I can't believe that I'm saying I thank God for all my struggles because it made me who I am today. As I was reading the Bible a few years back, I fell across the verse, Song of Solomon's 4:7. "You're altogether beautiful, darling. There is no flaw in you." It instantly brought me to tears, and I knew it was a message. I currently have it tattooed on me as a constant reminder. Today I'm currently doing therapy with children at Northwood Children's Services that have suffered through trauma. It's kind of crazy how God works and ends up putting me in my dream job.
So it was my junior year of high school, and it actually, when I was thinking about it, it was right around this time, because I had a friend, and she invited me to a Young Life club, and she was actually hosting it at her house. I remember it was the Halloween club, so I remember it being like almost 11 years ago to like this year or what have you. But I went, and all of a sudden it was like I could be who I was at school with these people. These were the kids that I was going to school with, and I was seeing at the hockey games and all the football games and the all-school dances, and I didn't have to pretend I was someone else. And they were there to learn about Jesus, like I was, and I just felt like it was where I was supposed to be. I ended up going to camp at the end of my senior year, and just had an amazing time. And I was in a room with a bunch of kids from Cloquet Esko Carlton, and we were sharing all the crap we had going on in our lives. And around the room there was like 2 kids, including me, that had mom and dad both involved consistently in their life. And at that point I realized that what Young Life was doing, I was excited about. Because they were going to kids that weren't gonna show up in my Sunday school class. They didn't have all the knowledge that I was brought up in, but they were looking for something. And this prayer will forever change who I am as like a person. Our leader, after we had shared everything that was going on, he's like, God, we got a lot of shit going on. And at that point it opened up my eyes, and it's like, you know what, that does happen, and young life leaders come into the lives of students where that is happening and they're not scared of it. And so I was fired up. So I went to college, I was involved in Young Life College, and I'm currently in my 5th year being a Young Life College leader down in the University of Minnesota. And so from that moment in the dorm room, now I get to go into the crappy areas, and it was all because of someone just was like, hey, come check this out in high school.
As I continued on in high school, when I was a freshman, I went to my first Young Life Club with my sisters. And I would say that when I went there, you know, I was still pretty damaged and pretty broken, and I still didn't know what the heck I was doing. And so I went to Young Life Club, and I felt different, and I thought, you know, this is cool, this is fun, and my sisters were doing it, so I should do it. But I was still, you know, I was still angry, and I still, you know, was a different person on the weekends. And but I remember my Young Life leader who invited me, who was also my teacher. She just consistently continued to pour into me, continued to ask me how I was doing and see how I was. And at the time, I didn't get it. I didn't understand why she was that way. I didn't understand why I deserved to be poured into and to be loved. And now I know that she did that for me because of what God did for her and for what God did for me. But I went throughout high school. I continued to go to club, but I continued to get into things that I shouldn't have. And I went to camp twice in high school. I first went to Timberwolf after my freshman year of high school and loved it, but I still didn't get it. I didn't know what it meant to follow Jesus and to have a relationship with God. The summer after my junior year of high school, I went to Timberwolf again, and that time I got it, and I decided to give my life to Jesus, and so I did that year. But it was hard. I went back, and you know, I still had days where I'd come home and had to take care of my mom, or my dad wasn't around, and my sisters were still in pain, and I just felt like I didn't get why that hadn't happened then, and why they didn't understand who Jesus was. So I did what I could though, and I kept listening to my Young Life leader. I kept going to Young Life, and it continued to be a big part of my life. I went off to college, was really confused, transferred a couple times, but ultimately I was involved in Young Life College. I actually met Alex my freshman year of college at the U. I don't go there anymore, but so at my sophomore year of college, something big happened in my life that kind of wrecked me, and I was lost. I didn't, you know, I knew who Jesus was and I was following Jesus, but I didn't know why these things had to be ripped away from me. But that summer, I went to Castaway on summer staff, so that I volunteered for a month on summer staff, and completely, I thought I knew Jesus before I didn't. And so when I went to summer staff, I was unconditionally loved by all the people that were there. And just I would stay there for 2 months, and that really changed my life. And so Castaway's a Young Life camp, if anyone doesn't know, and that's where Cloquet goes in the summer. But it changed my life. And then I came back and I started leading for Cloquet and Esko Carlton. And that's where I just continued, not only from people who I met at camp, but people like the other leaders and even students that continue to pour into me and to love me, and that's all because of what God did for us. And so I then went back to Castaway this past summer and interned there for the summer, and I go to the College of St. Scholastica for nursing, and I'm happy because of what God did for me, and I am thankful for what I went through.
And we want to say a huge thank you for you being here tonight, just listening, learning a little bit more about Young Life. All we would ask now is that if you see value in this program, please partner with us to make a difference. There's a tear-off section in your program to partner in several ways, financially or with your time volunteering. Please fill this out, and you can give that to your table host. Table host, when you've collected all these, then please hold them above your head.